So keeping it simple today, the last 16 round of the FIFA World Cup 2026 kicks off in a few. You gotta know that before 1998 there used to be a day off after the group stage and before starting the last 16. We started playing with no interruption since 1998 group stage and last 16 before finally getting days off before the quarterfinals. This was the case in 2002, 2006, 2010 as well. Then we came back to getting one day off after the group stage in 2014 and 2018. Then that day off disappeared again in 2022, where the group stage and the last 16 round were played with no interruption in the calendar of the finals. This year it's even bigger, like I said. It's normal with the expansion of the number of teams from 32 to 48. 3 rounds of the World Cup with no interruption, group stage, last 32 and last 16. So let's go. Let's look up at these teams first that left the tournament. Of course, 16 has already left following the group stage. 16 more did after the end of the last 32 round. In 17th position, the Netherlands. A lot to improve from the Dutch perspective. Actually, it's a team that has some potential, but yet to deliver at the global stage, given the performance that they had against Morocco, completely dominated. That does not reflect really the total football that we know about the Dutch in history. The last time they won a major title was 38 years ago, the Euro in 1988. The other giants that left the competition at this early stage, given their ambitions, ranks right after Holland in 18th position. Germany, a great deception for a former giants of the worldwide soccer. As you know, Germany was in the top 8 of each World Cup between 1954 to 2014, 16 finals in a row. But now they are starting another record, but the one of mediocrity, unfortunately. 3 times in a row already where the Mannschaft has failed to reach the last 16 of the FIFA World Cup. With no inspiration, with no real number 9, you gotta know that Havertz is not really a number 9. He's just used for the best of his capacity in a position where he does not excel much. So a lot to review from this perspective, a lot to review in German football anyways, because the Bundesliga level also has to improve. Of course, it's one of the big 5 leagues in the world, no question about it. But the competition that existed from the perspective of other clubs, not just Bayern as it is today, knowing the Bayerns have a lot of superstars that are not German, like Harry Kane, like Luis Diaz, like Michael Olise, etc. A lot of things has to be improved. It was the basis of the strength of the old West German team and Germany after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1990 till the fourth title in 2014. So here we go. Just imagine yourself the classic, the 1974 final between Germany and the Netherlands, and these two teams are finishing only respectively 17th and 18th at this FIFA World Cup. That shows how big the competition has become in today's football. With great pride, Cote d'Ivoire gets the 19th place. Like I said, it's the very first time for the Elephants that they reached the second round of the competition. Unfortunately, against Norway, many spaces were left for Erling Haaland to put that goal, and I think the lack of experience has played a lot for Cote d'Ivoire. And like I said, from this first qualification to the second round, many things will probably get improved in the future. 20th position, Croatia. Here again, the third giant from European soccer that I mentioned here in this ranking. The friends of Modric played to their best ability against Portugal. Again, Croatia really numbs you during the game. That was their tactic since the beginning of the finals, and then they all show up everything usually in the late first half and during the second half. Second in 2018, third in 2022. Nobody will forget the tale that was inscribed in golden letters by the friends of Luka Modric. 202 caps, hats off for him. And of course, any decision that will come from here, either continue or international retirement, is totally respected. But a legend of soccer, for sure. Here we come to 21st position with the Japan. Of course, the Japanese did well, as we mentioned in the previous video, throughout the group stage. Against Brazil, they were missing just a few things, a few details. They lose the game at the very last minute. The friends of the one fought valiantly. Unfortunately, Japan will not make it to the last 16 of the FIFA World Cup a third time in a row, like how it was the case in 2018 and 2022. Then we have Australia that comes right after in 22nd positions. The friends of Aziz Bahish did also a great showdown, resistance. We've seen that from the game against Paraguay already, and they show the same combativity in terms of defense against Egypt. Unfortunately, they cannot go further than the last 32 round, the best appearance of Australia at the FIFA World Cup was being in the top 16 1974 through direct qualification to a smaller tournament at the time, 2006 and 2022 by reaching the round of 16 proper. The OFC exited during the group stage, the AFC exits with the elimination of Japan and Australia from these finals this year. Of course, it's been really tough for the Asian teams. 7 got eliminated first in the group stage. 2 now were eliminated in the last 32 round, Japan and Australia. Asia did better at the FIFA World Cup. As a matter of fact, they had 3 teams in the top 16 in 2022, which was their best performance. I speak about Japan, Australia, and Korea 4 years ago in Qatar. Unfortunately, a lot of things to look upon right now, and all the Asian soccer will focus now on what is coming next, which is the AFC Asian Cup 2027 in Saudi Arabia, as well as the qualifier for the 2030 edition. So hard luck to Asia. We continue analyzing this 23rd position for the DR Congo. Like Cote d'Ivoire, this French-speaking sub-Saharan African country reached the second round for the first time in its history, and also like Cote d'Ivoire, they have felt through shortness of experience against a tough English side. When they scored at the 6 minutes, 1-0 against England at that level, we all thought, of course, it will be the shock of the century when you saw that score. Their goalkeeper did well as Wan-Bissaka in the defense. but they fell short against the experience of England at the end of the game. Nothing to be ashamed of, a lot of learning from the men of Benjamin Desabre for the future of the competition in 2030, etc. Right after them in 24th, another African side also who fought valiantly during the group stage, Ghana. Something was missing to them against Colombia, of course, experience, finishing at the level of the offense. They never had really the opportunity to join back Colombia after Arias's goal, which was the concluding game of the last 32 round. Ghana did better, of course. We remember the participation of 2010 by reaching the quarterfinals. They reached the top 16 in 2006. This time they reached the second round, but only the last 32. In 25th position, we have here a tie with two teams. Ecuador, who fought also really well by that historic win against Germany 2-1 to make it out of the group stage. They fell short, honestly, against Mexico, even if they lost 2-0, but they were not complex in the game. The best appearance of Ecuador remains, nevertheless, reaching the top 16 in 2006 in Germany. Then, like I said, co-25th is South Africa. As I said before, for Côte d'Ivoire, for the DRC, South Africa also were playing the second round of the FIFA World Cup for the first time in history, and they fought valiantly against Canada, losing only at the last minute of the game. In 27th, we have Sweden. Like the DRC, Sweden have to go through the playoff, a marathon qualifying campaign to make it to the finals only in March. They played with calculation during the group stage to make it as a third, one of the 8 third bests. They felt against France. Their goalkeeper did a great job, but of course the potential of Les Bleus was a little bit higher to expect from the Swedes. 28, another European side that fought also during the group stage to make it out at the very last second against Algeria. I speak about Austria here, but while they faced Spain, they were really on the facing basically an adversary that have a little bit higher skills, I would say. It's like the case of Sweden versus France. But no shame for the friends of David Alaba. Austria played the second round for the first time since 1982, and the first knockout game in 72 years in the history of the FIFA World Cup. Then still another team from Europe in 29th position, Bosnia and Herzegovina, like Sweden and the DRC. That was the last team that made it through the playoffs in the qualifiers, that fought and scratched their nails in order to make it to the second round of the World Cup, which is very historic for the friends of Dzeko. But logically, the United States was a tougher opponent, and they exit the tournament after a brave game that they lost 0-2. And Algeria came 30th here, unfortunately, after the magic night against Austria. I think the Desert Foxes really got everything they had in their tanks, and Switzerland was just a tougher opposition. We did not see a lot of creativity from the friends of Riyad Mahrez during this game of the last 32 round. The best appearance of Algeria was basically, if you want to count, being in the top 16 despite exiting the group stage in 1982 and making it to the round of 16 proper in 2014. After that comes Senegal in 31st position. Again, the men of Thio had such an offensive potential. From goal scoring, Senegal scores 10 goals. In this teams ranked from 17 to 30 seconds, only Germany and Netherlands scored more than Senegal, just to show you how. But the defense did not follow, and that's what has shown in another dramatic end of sub-Saharan African football in this round of 32 against Belgium. And unfortunately, what was supposed to be a dream became a nightmare for the friend of Sadio Mane. A lot of review in the future. 32nd, last but definitely not least, Cape Verde, 3 points. But like I said, to me, what I saw yesterday just reflects what is coming up during the 21st century in soccer. To me, Cape Verde lifted a cup yesterday. What they did against Argentina is something that you cannot pull up even if you're in your best dreams. Now it's a reality for the men of Bubista, for the friends of Vozinha. A team that completely focused on the FIFA World Cup. They were not at the AFCON like Ghana. They focused on getting here. They drew against Spain. They eliminated Uruguay from the group stage after tying with them 2-2. And they were about to eliminate another South American team that won the World Cup more than once. Unfortunately, they fell short against Lionel Messi's experience. And just hats off to Ativo Zoish. So the big notes from the last 32, of course I'm gonna speak about the teams that are ahead, that went to the last 16 after winning their games in this round. But for the teams that left, we can say that from Europe you can really realize that they are the top teams, like the best teams in the world for sure, because 7 teams from Europe make it. The UEFA maintained the leadership in the top 16 throughout history, but the gap is getting smaller and smaller. They had 8 in Qatar, yes indeed 10 in Russia, but before that UEFA had only 6 in Brazil and 6 in South Africa. So from that point, like there is a division in Europe between the top teams that make it to the edge of the tournament and the teams that can barely make it through the second round. And unfortunately for the Netherlands, Germany, they are part of these teams today. And many of them exited. 6 European teams exited in the top 32. For South America, 4 out of 5 they made it. Usually that's the classic quota for the CONMEBOL. 3 teams from Mercosur, 1 team from Merconorte. CONCACAF, 3 teams. Again, the best performance of the zone was also 2014, when Costa Rica, Mexico and the United States came to the top 16. Now again 3 teams, Mexico, the United States and Canada, are in the top 16, which is basically expected given the fact that this country has done everything possible for them as hosts to go as far as possible in the tournament. And for Africa, unfortunately, I mean, I know that I don't include Morocco and Egypt and their valiant efforts here, but it's very sad to see that 7 sides, sub-Saharan countries, exited, plus Algeria, of course, exited from the last 32 round. Africa remains only with 2 teams for the last 16 round, which equals what they did in 2014 and 2022, where they were as well present with two sides. Most of these teams that got eliminated will now target their focus onto the next AFCON and onto the qualifier of the 2030 campaign that will have parts of it taking place in Africa, as you know, in Morocco. So hard luck to all the teams that went out. I want to get back here to speak about what is coming up with the opener of the last 16 round. As you know, Morocco will face in Houston, Canada, and like I said, both teams faced before in the group stage 4 years ago in Qatar, so they know each other from a certain perspective. Canada has nothing to lose. They conducted basically a valiant campaign at home. By finishing second to Switzerland in their group, they are condemned to play the rest of the competition in the United States. Morocco will target the last 8 for the second time consecutively in their history, so a lot to watch over this game. Paraguay against France. Remember, both teams met in the round of 16 in Lens in 1998, and what a tournament so far for the Paraguayans here, by eliminating Germany. Now they're trying even to pull a bigger upset against France. As I say, Paraguay made it to the top 8 before. It was in 2010, their best appearance. France is one of the mega favorites here. A lot of things to watch over, and trying to make their best to continue this quest. France qualified to the quarterfinals 3 times in a row: 2014, 2018, 2022. I will try to do it a 4th time. Speaking about that record that Germany had, like I said before, for 16 in a row, Brazil is a contender of it when he plays in East Rutherford against Norway tomorrow, because Brazil never missed to be in the top 8 ever since 1994. Of course, they have a lot to do in terms of future qualification to the top 8 consecutively in order to join Germany, but that will take a few more editions. But like France, I mean, the friends of Vinicius Junior would like to mathematically do the best without damage, but this is a real shock, because Norway and what they pulled during the qualifiers against Italy, and then threw off even the group stage over Senegal in the last 32 over Cote d'Ivoire, with their machine Haaland, are always a dark horse of the tournament. Then comes really the shock of the weekend of the last 16 in Estadio Azteca, the last game that will be played in Mexico in this edition. That will be the game between L3 and the Three Lions. So yeah, a classic certainly. I mean, Mexico holds a lot of hope for the CONCACAF, trying to make it at last to the top 8 only for the 3rd time in their history, after 1970 and 1986 when they hosted the tournament. Again, England here, like France and Brazil, will try to mat out the best in order to continue in the tournament. The Iberian Derby will take place right after that on the 6th in Arlington at the AT&T Stadium, and the challenge goes on for Cristiano Ronaldo, who pulls his 11th goal at the FIFA World Cup against Croatia, who is willing to make Portugal get further in the tournament. The team of La Fuente on paper seems to be the favorites, but like I said, when it comes to this kind of clashes between Iberian cousins, it's always something that is hard to forecast. But really a big shock, like Mexico and England, the big shock of the last 16 round, and this will show us one of the contenders will stay alive for the rest of the tournament. In Lumen Field in Seattle, the Yanks will face Belgium. The United States wants to make it to the last 16 for the very first time the last 8 for the very first time since 2002. Nothing to lose against Les Diables Rouges, and like I said, USA can do it, even if it is a tough opposition against the friend of Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku, who really pulled an amazing game against Senegal. The last 16 will conclude on July the 7th with Argentina, who barely edged against Cape Verde. But hey, these kind of things can happen in tournaments like the FIFA World Cup. The bottom line is that you are staying afloat. This time another African side against Egypt, and we will follow this game with great interest. Messi versus Salah. And to conclude, the last game in Canada will take place that day between Switzerland, who is eager to reach the top 8 for the very first time since 1954, even if they were very regular to reach the top 16 since 2014. Switzerland always failed during the fourth game, in Brazil against Argentina, in Russia against Sweden, and in Qatar against Portugal. So what's the odds against the only representative of the Merconorte region of the CONMEBOL zone, as I said, which is Colombia, and the best appearance of Colombia was also reaching the top 8 in 2014. We'll see what the friends of Luis Diaz will put and present during this game. So lots to cheers yet. This is still the last 16. I consider it the fourth phase of this long journey of 2026 World Cup that started with the qualifier, then the group stage, then the last 32, then the last 16. And things are getting sharper and sharper the more we advance. Stay tuned.